Hello everyone, I'm Planet and I'm making free videos that teach quality engineering, that step by step, that can, build you a real skills without paying any expensive courses. So we've covered the quality system, its documentation, the standard behind it, and how audit verify it. Today we've covered two topics that makes everything else, stick with the organization leadership and its people, the cost of quality and the quality training. So here's the roadmap, the economics of quality, why quality, speed, and cost are complementary and not competing, uh, objectives and the three cost categories like prevention, appraisal, and failure. Second, how to actually implement, like collect, analyze, and report on the quality cost, plus four genuinely hard-won lessons learned from the decades of practice. And third, we pivot to the quality training, the ADDIE model, needs assessment, curriculum design, and how adults specifically learn differently from the way training often assume. Fourth, the 10 specific reasons training program failed and how five levels used to evaluate whether the training actually worked. And finally, a real case study from from the Tennessee Eastman Company and the important closing distinction between the training and education. So to achieve the most effective improvement efforts, management should ensure that the organization has ingrained in its operating principles the understanding that quality, speed, and cost are complementary, so not conflicting objectives. So traditionally, recommendations made to management were framed as choices between the quality, speed, and the cost. So pick two of the three. So experience throughout the world has shown, and management is beginning to see, that this framing simply is not true. Good quality leads to increased productivity and reduced quality cost, and eventually to increased sales, market penetration, and profits. Quality is not a trade-off against the other two. It actually reinforces them. This brings us to genuinely confusing phrase worth entangling, the economics of the quality. Some people believe that there is no economics of quality at all, meaning it's never economical to ignore quality. Like the other extremes are managers who believe it's uneconomical to have 100% quality. So that perfect quality itself costs more than it's worth. Whether for manufacturing or a service, a quality cost program lends a credence to the business value of the quality management program and provides cost justification for the corrective actions demanded. Quality cost measurements provide guidance to the quality management program, much as the cost accounting system does for the general management. So they define and quantify the cost directly affected, both positively and negatively, by the quality management program, allowing the quality to be managed more effectively rather than just aspirationally. So let's get precise about what quality costs are. So simply stated, quality costs are a measure of the cost specifically associated with the achievement or the non-achievement of a product or service quality, including all product or service requirements established by the company and its contracts with customers and society. More specifically, quality costs are the total cost incurred by three things: investing in the prevention of the non-conformances to requirements, called prevention cost; appraising a product or service for conformance to requirements, called the appraisal cost; and failure to meet requirements are called failure costs. So we'll go much deeper into these categories, including their internal and external failure split in a couple of slides later on. So here's the precise conceptual definition worth remembering. So quality cost represents a differences between the actual cost of a product or a service and what reduced cost would be if there is no possibility of the substandard service, failure of the products, or defects in their manufacture. In other words, it's the gap between what you're actually spending and what you spent in the hypothetical world where nothing ever went wrong. So every company lives with a significant cost that fit this description, but unfortunately, significant chunks of quality costs are normally overlooked or unrecognized simply because the most accounting systems are designed to identify them as a distinct category. Because of this, it's not difficult to understand why top management at most companies is more sensitive to overall cost and schedule than to quality specifically. The interrelationship of quality, schedule, and cost is likely to be unbalanced in favor of schedule and cost. and often, at the expense of the quality. So this imbalance persists as long as the real cost of quality remains hidden among the total cost, and it can stage far much greater imbalance if that hidden, rising the true cost of quality grows large enough to significantly affect the competitive position. The goal of any quality cost system is to facilitate quality improvement efforts that will lead to the opportunities to reduce operating costs. The strategy for using quality cost is generally simple to state, even if it takes real discipline to execute. Four steps. One is directly, attack failure cost in attempt to dive them to zero. Two is the invest in the right prevention activities to bring about improvement. Three is the reduce appraisal cost according to the results actually achieved. As the quality improves, you need less inspection to catch problems. And four, continually evaluate and redirect prevention efforts to gain further improvement. So this is an ongoing loop, not a one-time fix. So this strategy is based on three premises worth stating explicitly. For each failure, these are root causes, and causes are preventable, and prevention is generally cheaper. In a practical sense, real quality cost can be measured than reduced. So through the proper standard analysis of the cause and effect. As failures are revealed through appraisal actions or customer complaints, they're examined for root causes and eliminated through a corrective action. So there's an important note from the economic principle. The further along in the operating procedures that a failure is discovered, and thus the nearer to the product or service used by the computer, the more expensive it is to correct. So usually a failure costs are reduced. So appraisal efforts can be reduced in statistically sound manner, and the knowledge gained from this improvement can be applied. So through prevention activities or disciplines. So by minimizing the quality cost this way, quality performance level can themselves be a generally improved, not just financially optimized. The managing quality cost begins with a general understanding and belief that improving quality performance and improving quality cost are synonymous. So that's the economic quality in practice. The next step is recognizing that measurable quality improvements can also have a tangible effect on the other business measures, such as sales and market share. The caveat is though quality cost must actually be measured and must generally reflect cost or loss opportunities to the company. So not just be asserted. It should be further understood the cost of the quality is a comprehensive system. So it's not just a tool. There's a real danger in responding to a customer problem only with added internal operations such as more inspections or tests. So for service operations, this might simply adding more operators. While this may solve the immediate customer problem, the added cost may in fact destroy the profit potential. It looks like a progress, but it's actually just, shifting cost around, not eliminating it. A comprehensive quality management program forces the analysis of all the associated quality costs, making this added internal cost appear clearly as just one step toward the ultimate resolution. So prevention of the root cause of the problem. Quality cost should therefore become an integral part of any quality management program and in turn in any quality management system or improvement activity. So overall, quality cost data points out the potential for improvement and provides the management with a basis for measuring the improvement actually accomplished, so not just claim. To manage the quality cost, they must be categorized, and three major categories commonly used are prevention cost, the appraisal cost, and the failure cost. So let's take the first two in depth with real example from this topic or using the table 2.2 from the book. Like prevention costs are the cost of activities specifically designed to prevent poor quality in products or services. So examples given include the cost of quality planning, training programs, and quality improvement projects. So the chapter fuller, table like table 2.2 from the book breaks down the much further into things like marketing and customer perception surveys, design quality program reviews, the product design qualification, the supplier reviews and supplier rating, the operation process, the validating and quality planning, the unifying idea across all of this. The unifying idea for this is like the money spent before a defect has every chance to occur. Appraisal costs are the costs associated with measuring, evaluating, or auditing products or services, specifically to ensure the conformance with the quality standards and performance requirements. So these include the cost of inspection, testing, product or service audits, process audits, and calibration of measuring and test equipment. In table 2.2, it expands this further into things like receiving or incoming inspections and tests, planned operation inspections and audits, laboratory support, and the depreciation, maintenance, the calibration cost of the measurement equipment itself. So the idea here is that money spent checking whether a defect has already occurred after the fact of production, but before the customer sees it. So the relationship between these two categories is prevention costs are proactive and appraisal costs are reactive but still internal. So both happen before the customer is affected. So which is exactly why both are considered good quality cost compared to the failure cost that we'll cover next. So failure costs are those costs resulting from products or services not conforming to the requirements or customer needs, and they're usually divided into two types, internal and external. Internal failure costs occur prior to delivery or shipment of the product or furnishing of a service to the customer. Example include the cost of scrap, rework, and material review. External failure costs occur after delivery of the product and during or after furnishing of a service to the customer. Examples include the cost of processing customer complaints, customer returns, warranty claims, and the product recalls. So the chapter table 2.2 also breaks down this much further. Internal failure costs include like things like design corrective actions, rework and scrap due to design changes, purchase materials, reject disposition cost, the material review and the corrective action cost, troubleshooting or failure analysis, and downgrade and end product or service. And then external failure costs include the compliant investigations, the return goods, the retrofit and recall cost, the warranty claims, the liability cost, penalties, customers' goodwill, impact, and even lost sales. Total quality cost is the sum of the prevention, appraisal, and failure cost, and it represents the sum gap as we discussed earlier. The difference between the actual cost of a product or service and what reduced cost would be if there is no possibility of substandard service, product failure, or manufacturing defects. So Joseph Juran quoted directly here from from the Juran Godfrey 1999. It calls the total quality cost gold in mind and waiting to be extracted. So when you zero in on eliminating failure cost and then challenging whether of appraisal cost, you're not just managing cost of quality, you're generally mining gold endurance, on framing. So let's walk through how a quality cost, gets stood up. To implement a quality cost program, the need of the program must be determined and presented to management in a way that justifies the effort and gets them genuinely interested in participating. One effective way to do this is establishing a simple trial program. For this purpose, only major costs need to be gathered and only readily available data to be included. So much of the record data may already exist and some cost can be, even be estimated if necessary. When setting up a trial, there's no need to do everything immediately. So you can select a program, facility, or an area of particular interest to management and let that result be sufficient to sell management on the broader need. So with the management sold and the accounting department recruited to assist, the specific quality cost to collect must be determined. So tasks must be classified as prevention, appraisal, or failure and listed together with the departments responsible for them. And here's the genuinely important reminder. The quality department is not the only department that incurs quality cost. Prevention costs are determined by listings tasks aimed at preventing poor quality. Together with the responsible departments, appraisal cost elements are determined similarly by listing associated with the inspecting or testing products or services for poor quality. For failure cost, it determines those costs that would not have been expended if quality were perfect. So no rework, no customer complaints needing response. So no need for corrective actions. And remember to split failure cost into the internal and external categories. Quality cost elements may differ from a company to company. especially industry to industry, but the overall categories of prevention, appraisal, and failure are always the same. So once the cost to collect are decided, a method to collect them must be developed. Collection of quality costs should be responsibility of the controller. The finance and the accounting department is the company's cost collections agency, and having the controller collect the cost that adds real credibility to the data. So with the help of the quality manager, the controller reviews the list of the costs to be collected, and it determines which are already available under the existing accounting system and decides where additions are needed. Sometimes simply adding new cost element to the present charging system is sufficient. Ideally, a complete system cost of element code is coded so that the prevention, appraisal, and the internal and external failure cost can be easily distinguished and sorted, entered into the labor cost collection system alongside hours expended and later converted to dollars. So one notable exemption is the scrap, where all work needs to be inspected, rejected, and dispositioned first. So often with existing scrap reporting documents forwarded to estimating for costing. The accounting department should provide all the collected quality cost to quality function in a format suitable for analysis and reporting, supported by the periodic training and regular audits for the collection system itself. Quality cost can be summarized in many ways: by company, division, facility, department, or shop, by program, type of program, or all programs combined. The best way to summarize is simply according to the specific needs of the organization. Analysis can include like comparing total quality cost with the appropriate measurement base. Some commonly used base are sales, cost input, and direct labor. And the base selected depends on what's appropriate for the organization needs. Comparing quality cost with a measurement base relates to the cost of quality to the amount of work actually performed, and an increase of inequality cost with a proportionate increase in the base is normal. In the non-proportionate change that should draw your attention, the index total quality cost over the measurement base is the factor actually analyzed. And the goal is to bring this index minimum through a quality improvement. That the index can be plotted so trends relative to past performance and the future goals can be genuinely analyzed over time. Other methods of analysis include studying the effect changes in one category have on the other sides and on the total. For example, was an increase in prevention cost effective in reducing the failure cost, and was the reduction in failure cost sufficient to cause a reduction in total quality cost? So this kind of analysis gives an insight where the quality dollar can mostly, wisely spent. So increase in failure cost must be investigated to determine where costs needed to be expended to reverse the trend. A defect reporting system, used alongside the quality cost program can help identify significantly, problems and define the causes of scrap, rework, and other failure costs. So while losses are distributed among many causes, they are not uniformly distributed. A small percentage of causes accounts for a high percentage of losses. So this is a Pareto principle. Okay, so there are almost many ways to report quality cost as there are companies reporting them, because how they are reported depends entirely who they are reported to and what the report is trying to say. The amount of detail included in quality cost report generally depends on the level management the report is aimed at. To top management, the report might be scorecard, depicting the status of the quality program through a few careful selected trend charts. So where the program has been and the direction of its heading. Savings over the report period and the opportunities for future savings might be identified here. To middle management, the report might provide, quality cost trends by department or shop to enable identifying areas in need of improvement, a more granular operational view than the top level scorecard. So reports to line management might provide a detailed cost information, perhaps the results of a Pareto analysis identifying the specific areas where the corrective actions would afford the greatest improvement plus a scrap rework by shop. And notice the pattern here. The report does not change what quality costs actually are. only how much detail and what level of aggregation they're presented. The same underlying data, serves as executive scoreboard, a scorecard and shop floor corrective action. So just filtered and framed the audience reading it. So once a quality cost program is implemented, it should be managed to justify and support improvement in each major area of product service activity. Quality costs should be reviewed for each major project line, manufacturing area, service area, and cost center. The improvement potential in each individual area can be examined and meaningful goals established. The quality cost system then becomes an integral part of the quality measurement. The proper balance is establishing improvement efforts at the level necessary to effectively reduce total cost of quality and adjusting as progress is achieved so total quality costs reach the lowest attainable level. So this prevents unheeded growth in quality cost and creates improved overall quality performance, reputation, and profits. Another genuine valuable benefit of a cost program is it can be used as a budgeting tool as costs are collected against the quality cost elements, a history of cost that is generated, which can determine the average cost per element depending on how detailed the established elements are. The organization can identify what it's been spending on various function or task, information that becomes the basis for future codes and estimates. So budgets can be established for each element and actual collected against them can be compared to the budget amounts to determine the variances with action initiated to bring over or underrunning elements back into the line. The key factor in reducing quality costs is actually quality improvement. And the key factor in quality improvement is corrective action. So quality costs do not reduce themselves. They're merely, the scorecard. They tell you where you are and where your corrective action will afford the greatest return. So quality costs identify targets for corrective action. So once a target is identified through a Pareto analysis or other quality analysis methods, the necessary action must be carefully determined and individually justified on the equitable cost trade-off. You don't want to resolve a $500 problem with a $5,000 solution. So experience measuring quality cost becomes generally invaluable here for estimating payback on individual corrective action investment. So some problems have obvious solutions like replacing a worn bearing, or others like a marginal condition in a design or processing, are almost never discovered and corrected without a well-organized formal approach. Marginal conditions are easily get accepted cost of doing business otherwise. So the true value of corrective action is that you only have to pay for it once, whereas the failure to take corrective actions may be paid for repeatedly. So traditionally, quality cost methods have been around a long time, and these principles still apply today and will apply for the foreseeable future. But experience with quality cost over time has surfaced some genuinely useful lessons, and we will cover the four. The first lesson is that speaking the language of money is essential. For successful quality effort, the single most important element is leadership by upper management. To gain that leadership, the wrong approach is proposing the concept or tools first. Instead of management should be convinced that a real problem exists, requiring their attention and action, such as excessive cost due to poor quality. A quality cost study, especially coupled with a successful pilot quality improvement project, is genuinely solid way to gain management support for the broader effort. Excessive cost and loss of sales revenue are both quality-related hot buttons for management. The second lesson is quality cost measurement and publication do not solve quality problems unless they're actually used. Improvement projects must be identified, clear responsibility established, and resources provided to diagnose and remove the causes of problems. So new organizational machinery is needed to attack and reduce the high cost of poor quality. The numbers alone don't do the work. The third lesson is that the scope traditionally quality costs should be expanded. Traditionally, quality costs have emphasized the cost of nonconformities, important as that cost is. There's a need to estimate the cost of, I'm sorry, there's a need to estimate the cost of inefficient processes too. So variation of product characteristic, even the conforming products, redundant operations, and sorting of inspections and other non-value added activities. Other area worth considering is the cost of lost opportunities for sales revenue. And so the fourth lesson is that the traditional categories of the quality costs have remarkable longevity. About 50 years ago, some pioneers proposed that the quality cost be assigned to the categories of the prevention, appraisal, and failure. So many practitioners found that the categories useful and even devised ingenious way to adapt them beyond manufacturing. So into the engineering design and into the service factor, like a financial, service and healthcare. The principles still work today. The difference is in their expanded application. Quality costs have become the principal management and the quality improvement tool, and the quality cost program is actually the bridge between the line and executive management, a common language and measurement system showing how quality pays in increased profits, productivity, and customer acceptance. To keep an organization healthy, its people must be continually trained in new concepts and techniques. So Frank Grayna generally epitomized the role of a quality engineer as a leader and a trainer. So beyond the college students, he helped educate and the adult workers he trained. He inspired hundreds of professionals to become passionate, skillful carriers of the quality torch as trainers themselves. So Grayna in 1988 stated directly that the need is to extend training in quality-related matters to personnel in all functions. He made a genuinely pointed historical comparison. While the US companies formerly trained only quality-related specialists in quality, the Japanese, from the very beginning to their industrial renaissance in 1946, targeted all departments. So not just quality function, he stated plainly that this difference in training contributed to the quality crisis for the United States. So that's a strong claim, but it frames everything we're about to cover. Training is not a nice to have confined to quality specialists. It's a company-wide discipline and neglecting the breadth that has real documented historical consequence. So, training may be formal or informal, large scale or small. Although it's usually delivered by instructors in classrooms, training can also happen through a self-directed study with work books, or as an online course. A genuinely powerful training method, especially for intellectual skills and human relations, is mentoring. A mentor provides a guidance, inspiration, and motivation. Likewise, a well-structured improvement project can include a training competent component, where the project leader gave a special instruction to ensure that the team members learn various skills as they complete the project. If the training task is small, it may involve only two people, an apprentice working alongside a master, for example. At the other extreme, it may require a fully staffed training and development department with the budget, in some companies, like let's say for example for McDonald's and Motorola, this department is called the corporate university, managing dozens of instructors delivering courses, seminars, and workshops year around. The middle ground is a quality engineer or organizing a small training program or helping a task build a larger one. So regardless of the size of the training program, the same development process is used, and many training programs are organized in five phases known as the ADDIE model. So named for the first letter each. So the first letter is assess the need for the training. So design a curriculum or training plan and develop the lesson plans and training materials and implement the plan, meaning deliver the instruction and evaluate the effectiveness of the training. Some have proposed a seven-phase model beginning with the customer identification and ending with the beneficial outcomes, resulting to a CADDIEM model or CADIEM model. And many other variations can also be used successfully. If a large scale training is being contemplated, you can spend more time you think in the assessing the needs and stay open-minded as to possibilities as well. So a thorough need analysis can prevent wasting large amounts of time and money on ineffective on inadequate training. So you might start out thinking a training program is needed, only to discover that through the needs assessment that your actual problem is solved through, is just a realignment of your organization. The methods of quality function deployment or the quality QFD are very suitable to the needs assessment. So one key QFD tool is the matrix charts, which can be used to organize the results of the surveys and focus groups. So we covered the QFD in a much more depth in chapter 3. The curriculum flows naturally from the needs analysis. It states that the learning objectives and how they will be achieved in each training event, whether through a lecture, demonstration, role play, or another method. Suppliers, customers, and even competitors may share their own curriculum ideas, and training professionals need to partner with subject matter experts during this phase because of its highly technical and subject, specific nature. Once the curriculum is set, the lesson plans flow rather naturally from it. There are numerous issues to resolve here: detailed content, sequencing, the depth, the breadth, the review points, the quizzes, and demonstration. So finding a suitable materials generally is not a problem. So selecting a plethora of artifacts, paper and electronic media, simulations, workbooks, and role plays might be, though. So remember that the training can be structured in many ways. Like formal classroom may be appropriate, but often the best training area is the workplace itself, with carefully designed instruction aids. So training happens as the work is actually being done. Creativity and imagination, creativity and imagination are generally in order here. For developing an intellectual skills like facilitation and conflict resolution, role playing is highly recommended since it is a good way to increase learners' involvement in the process. Designing good role plays can be time consuming, but Stolovich and Gibbs in 1992 explained how role play and simulation can be developed during the learning process itself in certain situations. So book discussion groups can focus management attention on timely issues with little to development cost. A rapidly growing body of the training material is now available electronically. So through a video modules and online materials and webinars hosted by the company's divisions of, you know, from the American Standard Society or the ASQ popular on the job training too. And search engines like Yahoo and Google will plenty more electronic training material as well. And generally important to point is both technical and competence teachings are mandatory. And an experienced quality engineer might need special how to teach, training, since the technical competence alone does not ensure teaching skill. Like train the trainer programs can range the informal colleague mentoring to an 8-week of site course. And the students must respect both the teaching ability and the competence of the instructor for real learning to take place. Most training programs are directed toward adults, and no less in 1996 pointed out that significant facts about how adults uh, specifically learn. So different from how children learn in a classroom. So let's cover, three of his conclusion. So one, adults decide themselves what is and what is not. So this is important to learn. To ensure learning actually takes place, the trainer should state specifically what should be learned and how it relates to the on-the-job performance. Adults won't simply absorb material because an authority figure presented it. So they need to see the direct relevance themselves. Two is adults buy into a training when it's supported on the job by the supervisors and management. If a supervisor sends someone to training and then never references on reinforces what has learned on the floor, the training credibility collapses. And genuine buy-in requires visible organizational support, so not just attendance. Number three is adults who are happy in their jobs are more receptive to training. And adults who are well trained for their jobs are happier employees. So this is a two-directional relationship and almost a virtuous cycle. Happiness makes people more receptive to training, and good training makes people happier in their roles, and each reinforcing the other over time. So understanding these three conclusions should shape how you design and deliver any training programs aimed at adult learners, which is to say the virtually workplace training program exists. So according to Greenan 1988, there are 10 specific reasons why training programs fail. And it's worth knowing all 10 precisely since they cover a wide range of failure modes. One is cultural resistance by a line manager. So two is doubt as to the usefulness of the training. So three is the lack of participation by line managers. Four is the techniques rather than problem orientation, teaching a tool for its own sake rather than tying it to a real problem that the learner actually faces. So five is the inadequacy of a leader or instructor. Six is mixing of participant levels, putting brand new employees in the same session as experienced veterans rarely serve as either group well. So seven is the lack of application during the course. Eight is over complex language, echoing the no less point about the adults needing clear, direct relevance and not the jargon. So nine is the lack of participation by training function itself. And 10, operational and logistical deficiencies. The mundane is practical failures like bad scheduling or poor facilities that can undermine even well-designed content. So reason seven is the lack of application during the course. So it deserves special attention and it's worth quoting that Gurney directly here. The ideal approach is to design the course so that participants must apply the training during the course itself. And one of the best learning experience is the application of the material being taught. So this was successful done during the World War II in the area of the work simplification programs. And yeah, and let's move. So referring back to the ADDIE model of the ADDIE, evaluation and needs analysis are closely related. So both are genuine learning experience for the training teams. It is very important for credibility to demonstrate that something useful has actually been accomplished. And if the outcome was poor, you need to you need to know quickly so you can take immediate corrective action. Some informal evaluation can happen while the course is underway, especially if the instructor is new. A trusted colleague or mentor can help discussion and role play exercise and can visit with attendance during breaks. The single most prevalent and the probably most cost effective form of evaluation is the pre and post test of knowledge. Attendee evaluation forms rating the instructor and the course and have been widely used in the past. But this technique is not recommended since there is too much room for subjectivity. This is known as the level 1 evaluation in Donald Kirkpatrick's 2006 hierarchy, shown in the full, in the table 2.3, with one additional level beyond the Kirkpatrick's original 4. So let's work through all the 5 levels. Level 1 is the reaction. How did the learners feel? Measured through the past post-instruction questionnaires or interviews, where the learners report their impressions of the instructor, curriculum, facilities, and the content. This is exactly the subjective level, the chapter caution against relying on alone. So level 2 is the learning. What did the learners retain? Measured to the pre-test and post-test, checking for gains in either knowledge or performance. So level 3 is the behavior. Did the learners actually change? This requires to assess to collect the data at the workplace itself, to evaluate real changes in the skill and performance. So a genuinely more rigorous standard than simply asking learners how they feel. So level 4 is the organizational. Is the impact felt beyond the individual learner, measured to a large-scale survey or morale? So product quality and turnover, typically followed by executive conference to interpret the results. And level 5 is the return on investment. Is there an effect of the bottom line? Um, this is the most informative level, but also the most difficult expensive to achieve. It requires a careful constructed financial data analyzed by professionals, and Six Sigma programs specifically include this element in their program evaluation. Phillips in 2003 discussed a full ROI methodology for training and improvement programs for anyone to pursue this level 5, rigorously. So let's ground a real example in 1980. A company training program at Tennessee Eastman Company involved from a concern about poor quality attitudes. The project reported by Hill and McCleskey in 1980, and while this training study is generally dated now over the 40 years, so later some aspects of the program are still acceptable and worth walking into the 6 steps, you know, chapter highlights. So step one is determining the purpose. So this phase involved in the upper and middle management, numerous operational units, and the training department. So crucially, the stated purpose was not to create a training program, but to improve the quality performance. Only after several weeks of discussion and surveys was a training program actually decided on as the solution. That sequencing matters. So they didn't start with the let's build the training. So they started with the actual problem. Step two is the developing alternatives. Through a focus groups, brainstorming, and exchanges of memos, several dozen alternatives were proposed. So 7 were selected for further study, and 2 of those were requiring positions guides that include quality responsibilities and are creating central quality organizations to coordinate development and dissemination of information and requirements. Step three is the analyzing the alternatives. A set of 5 weighted criteria was developed, including items like chance of completion and flexibility of format. The alternative with the highest score was teach about quality responsibilities. So step four is the designing the selected program. Many elements were specified, including the creating awareness of quality responsibilities, covering total learning needs in quality awareness. So being adaptable to specific needs. So being used only people requiring the knowledge, being portable and usable near the work area, and having a maximum length of 2 hours. After these design criteria were set, a survey of the all employees was taken. So listing a 40 potential courses and using the survey, so the task force developed 16 new courses, and step five is implementing the solution. The team wrote outlines and scripts, identified and needed materials, and published results. So calling on others for help as needed, and teachers were selected and trained, and a budget was set up, a cost tracking system was created, and the courses were put in a place for delivery and running for several years with the periodic updates. And step six is the evaluating the results. This is the pre and post test that were regularly used to determine how much was actually learned, tying directly back to Kirkpatrick's level 2 evaluation. So let's, close with this important distinction and then bring the whole session together. In conclusion, it's important to keep in mind that the distinction between the training and education. Training is providing a skill and or a technique for immediate application in a job related situation. Education is the development of the knowledge and understanding in a topic. Education rather than training can enrich one's life in an unpredictable future. So training is aimed at the job you have now. Education is aimed at whoever you might become in ways you cannot fully predict today. Now, four closing takeaways across both topics. So firstly is quality, speed, and cost are complementary. They are not competing objectives. So good quality drives productivity, reduce quality cost, and eventually increase sales, market penetration, and profits. So rather than trading, against them, is second, we prevention and appraisal are the good quality cost. So spent before a customer is ever affected, while the failure cost is especially total cost as a whole and represent in Juran's word that gold in the mine waiting to be extracted through a disciplined root cause elimination. Third is the ADD or the ADDIE model: assess, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. It underlies virtually every well-run training program, regardless of scale, from a two-person apprenticeship to a corporate university managing dozens of instructors. And fourth is the adults learn differently from how you learn programs often assume. So they decide for themselves. So what's worth learning is they need visible supervisor and management support to buy in. And the single best way to make training stick is having them apply the material during the course itself and not just listening to it. So between a cost of quality and the quality training, we've now covered how the organization both justify quality financially and build people who can actually deliver it. So I hope you enjoyed this, video and give you more value. And I'll see you soon. Bye bye.